What's up? So, I figured from my first video I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of just doing a time lapse, I'm going to try to do something along the lines of sort of a podcast, but like podcast with video background. I don't know if anybody else has done it, but I figured that'd be pretty cool. So, first episode, I feel like a good topic would be, who is Mr. Vister? How did I get my nickname? Where did it come from? And we can just chit chat about D&D. I feel like is the best possible topic for what you're watching. Since I play D&D, I've played D&D for quite some time, and we'll get into that as well. But first off, my name, Mr. Vister. So back in, I want to say 2000, maybe 2008 or something like that. No, maybe even earlier than that. Maybe about 2005 or 2006. I can't even remember. My buddy got me into World of Warcraft, and I created a character on his account, but because it was an account-bound thing, I had to create my own account. So I created my own account, bought my own version of the game, and the first character I ever made was an undead rogue named Vastir. And the reason I named him Vastir was my favorite group at the time was VAST, which stands for Visual Audio Sensory Theater. I've seen them a handful of times in concert, once up in New York. It was amazing. But I digress. Named my undead rogue Vastir. He had purple hair. He didn't have the glowing eyes. He had the jaw, like the bone jaw, not the one that was all hanging off to the side or whatever. That one was a little weird. I didn't really care for that one. And he was my main. He was my first ever character I made. Leveled him the whole way up to 60. Did all of I think I came in when Zul'Gurub was the big, like, 25 person raid. Got in a guild, was the rogue leader of the guild. It was pretty cool. And me being at that point in time, I want to say I was 22, 23. It was pretty cool. It was being a manager when I wasn't actually a manager. It was a weird thing. Like figuring out who was going to raid that night, who wasn't going to raid that night, and it was fun. So that's where I got my name from, Vastir. And how did it transition into Vister, Mr. Vister? So, like with many nicknames, what you know you have is a good one is when somebody gives you a nickname and you absolutely hate it. And that's exactly what happened for me. I absolutely hated my nickname. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And the reason I got the nickname was because I was in a different guild at that point in time. And I was still a rogue, still the name Vastir, and then instead of calling me Vastir, the one dude kept messing my name up and kept calling me Vister. And it just eventually stuck, and I absolutely despised it. They would raggle me all the time instead of Vastir, Vister, in the chat, in the guild chat, in the party chat, in the raid chat, in the voice chat. It was, it just drove me nuts. So what I did was I took it and I ran with it. And that's how Mr. Vister came to be. So let me give you a little bit of background on what you're actually watching here. So this is a character that I'm getting ready to play actually. When this video comes out, it'll be the next night I'll be playing it, Sunday night. This is a Warforged. It's a Clockwork Soul Sorcerer, which is from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And it's all about balance, like negating advantage, negating disadvantage, and stuff like that. So I was like, what better way of having neutrality than just being a cyborg? So went Warforged, and I went Sorcerer, and I picked Clockwork Soul Sorcerer. And to stick with the neutrality of it all, of course, alignment, true neutral. And instead of choosing Chaos Bolt for one of my spells, I chose Chromatic Orb because I can't deal with the chaos. And ironically enough, we have a chaotic enough warlock that's going to be in our group. So the two front people for Chit Chat, the two charisma builds, are going to be a robot and somebody who's just the epitome of chaos. And I'm not talking about just the warlock that's playing. I'm talking about the player is purely chaotic when it comes down to playing a character. He is hilarious. And he is the one, like, if you have the little angel and the little devil pop up on your shoulders, when it comes to D&D, he is the little devil that pops up on your shoulder. It is hilarious, because in my homebrew campaigns, and actually any real game that I DM now, I have these things called crit coins. And a crit coin is, in the book, if you look at the book, it's gonna be, the book is gonna be, you get to double the dice. That's cool. Double dice, that's fun. So you can either roll one die and double it, or you can roll two dice. For me, I'm a dice goblin, so I'm always gonna take the chance to roll more dice. But the crit coin, what that does, instead of ×2, it's ×3. And there's 3 of them on the table, and they give me one of those when they crit, and they say, you know what, I'm gonna triple my crit, and they give me the coin. I'm like, all right, cool. I put it on my side of the DM screen, and now if I crit, I have a coin that I can triple crit on them. And it is a huge point of contention sometimes when certain people end up critting, because this person who's gonna play the warlock is always like, pick up the coin and hand it to him. Pick it up, he'll point to it, he's like, you want to do this. It doesn't matter how many hit points the creature has left, he will always say you need to crit and you need to triple it, regardless of what you're thinking. But he's a fun one to play with. He's hilarious. So yes, the 2 charisma-based characters in this campaign that I'll be starting with a couple of my other friends are a robot and a person of pure chaos when they played D&D. And the warlock itself is going to be chaos, because it's like a homebrew that somebody bought on, I want to say it was Kickstarter or something like that. I can't even remember. But it's Oath of the Crownbreaker. If anybody knows what that is, they can look it up or whatever. But the DM bought Oath of the Crownbreaker, gave us the player options, and there's a ton. There is a ton. I already had Clockwork, Soul Sorcerer, Warforged in my head when they were like, hey, I'm gonna run something. So immediately, because I have a 3D printer, I got on the website that I use and just started looking. I was like, Cyborg Sorcerer, Warforged Sorcerer, like, what comes up? What's good? What do I like? And I found this mini, and I don't know what it is. I guess I really loved the just the overall aesthetic with the cloak flowing in the background and stuff. It's almost like a cloak of billowing. I'll use my bonus action every time. So the theme I was going for this mini was, if you've ever seen any Marvel movie with Avengers in it and Vision, you can see now I'm starting to paint the green. So I'm doing like the green, like, what is it, like a trench coat? It's like a sleeveless trench coat sort of thing. I don't even know. I'm not a fashion person. My daughter is. But I'm going to do that green. And then for the cloak, I'm going to do majority purple, I think it's called Purple Grimoire. And then I do a little bit of dragon blood at the very end, just because it looked cool as I was painting it, where it sort of faded out to black, and I was like, you know what, I'll make it fade out to red. So there's like a little bit of Vision influence here in this one. And then also, if you've ever seen Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, I really like the robot episodes in there, specifically like the 3 robots going around talking about like how the world ended, and like what's the difference between a tech billionaire and a billionaire. One of them just wears a hat backwards and a hoodie. The one robot on there I really liked the aesthetic of, with like the the black or dark gray sort of elbow, shoulder joint areas, and then where it would be muscle, it was more of like the white, like metallic ceramic or whatever. But I did notice that he had a blue eye and an orange eye, so you'll see that I did one eye orange and one eye blue. So let's go back to D&D and about how long ago I started playing. So I remember way back when my older brother at my mom's house was playing D&D, and I forget what video game I was playing at the time, but I came out because they were all laughing and having fun, and I went out to the kitchen because they played in the kitchen at the kitchen table, because we didn't have like a kitchen and then a dining room. Like, the kitchen was big enough to have the table in it for the dining room purposes, because this house was built back in the 40s. So architecture has changed a lot since then as well. But I remember going out and they were all laughing and having fun. And I believe it was actually one of the sessions where they used minis, because back when he played with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, they didn't really use minis all the time. Like, I don't know if all groups do this, but my groups definitely do. We try to always have, for any battle purpose, we at least have some sort of a grid, and if it's like a dry erase board or something like that, or a dry erase mat with the grid already printed on it, dry erase that, like, oh, here's mountains, here's rocks, here's a trail, here's some trees. I go above and beyond, and it's a time investment. It's a fun time investment. It's a fun hobby for me, because when I'm painting, I'm super focused. I don't really think about anything else, so it's almost like the Zen state. But I remember going out to the kitchen, and I think they were using minis, and one of the guys was playing a Minotaur, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. Like, you can be a Minotaur in this game? That's crazy. And they were talking about spells and like magic missile and fireball and like the sleet storm, and it was awesome. And then the ranger was like, I'm gonna fire an arrow, and it was really awesome. And I was really curious what this game was. And this was, I think, 1993, and I was 9 years old. So there you go. That's how old I am. You can do simple math and figure that out. And I asked my older brother, I was like, can I just sit here and watch? And he was like, yeah, come over here, sit on the bench beside me, and I'll let you roll dice. And that's also probably where my dice addiction comes from as well, was being able to let my brother, like, have my brother allow me to roll his dice as a DM. That's huge. If anybody is a DM, you understand the implications of that, letting your little brother roll or letting your child roll. Of course, it's going to be cute and sweet, but there's implications to that, where if they start to roll bad, you don't want them to touch anything anymore. It's a thing. But anyway, he let me roll some dice for him. I thought it was so cool. Everything was pen and paper back then. Nobody had laptops or tablets or used cell phones. So it was sort of crazy when I got back into D&D, but that's where it all started for me. It was in my mom's kitchen, sitting on the bench with my older brother at the end of the kitchen table behind a DM screen, letting me roll dice and see this Minotaur and this ranger and this wizard doing really cool things and fighting these awesome monsters. So eventually, of course, I asked him. I was curious. I asked him what this is, what game is this, because it's not a video game. You don't have controllers or a TV or something. And he told me it was Dungeons and Dragons, and I had to be 12 to play. Those were possibly the longest 3 years of my life, because they played, if it wasn't every other Saturday, it felt like every other Saturday. It felt like they were getting together all the time and playing and always having fun. And I wanted to be a part of it. And my brother is 14 years older than me. So I was the little kid at the table with a bunch of, like, in my opinion, really cool older adults. And they were all laughing, and I was able to sit there with them and have fun and laugh with them, because I was starting to pick up on what was happening. So that's where it all started. Eventually I turned 12. My brother gave me a player's handbook, and he was like, okay, you're 12. You can read this whole book, and then you can play. I hate reading. I would rather watch a movie. I would rather play a video game. I would rather do anything else aside from read. And now, starting last year, I was diagnosed with minor ADHD, and that's probably the reason why I hated reading, because I could not keep my attention on the page. I would read the page. I know I got to the bottom of it. I'd turn to the next page. I could not tell you what that page was that I just read. But I muscled through it. I read the book, read the classes, read the spells, read all the combat scenarios, read everything in it. And I finally was able to roll a character. And I got to roll the d6. I got to figure out what should I put for strength, what should I put for wisdom. It was amazing. And I remember playing Dungeons and Dragons from 1996 to about 2001. So I played for 5 years, and then I took a long hiatus. And they said that, oh, we're gonna start playing D&D again because like people got jobs and stuff fell apart. So they were like, all right, we're gonna play D&D again. Do you want to play with us? Of course I want to play with you. That was some of the funnest times of my life. Yes, absolutely, let's do this. So we got together on another campaign, played for a couple more years. Went to college. I played a 3rd edition game for a very small time. Then 3.5 came out. I played that even less. Never got into 4. And I've heard that's a good thing, apparently. 4 was just apparently not built or set up right, or not built or set up to be like player friendly. And there was just too much to keep track of. And it was more designed for like a digital sort of game, but it wasn't. And yeah, I'm happy I missed 4th edition, to be completely honest. But when my wife and I moved to the area we're in now, and we made friends with a lot of the neighbors, we were all sort of talking because 2 of them were in games, and I let them know I played a long time ago. It's 5th edition. I don't care about 5th edition. I'm not going to learn 5th edition. But when we saw a Facebook post for the neighborhood we're in, and the guy was like, hey, I'm gonna run a D&D group. I'll DM. I just need like 4 or 5 players. So all of us were like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And we sat down, met him over at our bottle shop, and we played D&D with him ever since. And it's been about 5.5 years. And our first campaign together was an absolute epic. It was a 4-year campaign. I played a cleric, a Tempest cleric, and then around level, I want to say 8 or 9. I think that's when the Eberron book came out, when I was about level 8 or 9. Bought the Eberron book, and we were all sort of joking about who's going to be an artificer. And I was like, I'll switch out. I'll play an artificer. So I went from a full caster healing to a half caster healing. And with the campaign that we were in, it was not a good idea. But switched back to the cleric. Tasha's came out. I went Twilight Domain and never looked back. And we went the whole way from 1 to 20. It was a beast of a campaign, to tell you the least. So you're going to see me finishing up the red here. You're going to see a nice picture. It's not one of the glam shots that I do, but I do like to get a picture of them being done, so you guys can actually see it in the video here. But yeah, so with all this said, my name's Mr. Vister. I paint minis, I play D&D, I nerd out, I talk about movies, I talk about whatever. And I think this is going to be like my little sort of podcast thing. So next time I paint a mini, I'm going to record it. We're going to have a little podcast sesh. If you guys have questions, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm sure I'm missing something. My daughter is way better at that stuff than I am anyway. But yeah, if you like this, a subscription would be awesome. A like would be great. And if you have questions, I can gather them up. So in the next video, I will try to answer as many as I can. Thank you and take care.